tell your crush tonight that you like them or suffer the consequences that this dude did, because boy did he have it coming.
He had it coming. He had it coming. He only had himself to blame.
Guys, welcome back to my channel. As you can see, I have a new layout. I'm trying something new. I'm always trying to figure out how I can give you better content, how I can communicate better visually with my videos, and I feel like this will be a little bit better, but I'm really curious on your thoughts, so please share in the comments below what you think of this layout, what you think I should do better. Should I go back to the old one? Should I continue with this one? Give me some input and feedback. I would love to know what you think. Okay, so let's talk Obsession. I made a video just 2 days ago about how the marketing campaign of this film has been mostly about the director, Cory Barker, and not so much about the film, the story, the actors. It's more about him, almost as if they know that this director is the next big name, or at least they're selling him as the next big name in horror. So the question for me going into this movie is, does he live up to that hype? So now that I've seen the film, I can actually say that yes, he lives up to the hype. He showed so much potential. I am really impressed in how he told this story, the vision that he had behind it, the world that he created, and how disturbing the movie got by doing very simple things. He has a voice and a talent that I am now really looking forward to see. So let's talk about the things that I loved about the movie, which explain why he lives up to the hype. Number one, the world he created and the visual aesthetic of the movie. Even though the movie is clearly set in present times, it has a feel like it's a throwback movie from the 80s or early 90s. From the clothing that the actors were wearing to the set designs and the lighting and the brilliant retro synth music that I clearly love, if you haven't noticed. Even the aspect ratio of the film and the grainy filter that the camera used, you felt like you were watching a movie from another decade. And I find this very clever because subconsciously it's making you feel like you're watching a great horror film from back in the day. But it also makes you think that you're watching movies that are elevated horror from A24 films, and even It Follows, because It Follows does the same thing. You're always thinking that you're in a different decade than when that movie actually takes place in. And I love this because it really sets the mood of what you're watching, and it sets it apart from every other horror film coming out today. But it does also one more thing that I find really interesting, and is that it makes you think of all the great coming-of-age films from the 80s, which there were many back in that decade. And this one starts with this guy in a diner with his friends trying to come up with ways of how to tell the crush, the girl that he likes, how much he is in love with her, and he can't. And it kind of feels like you're about to watch a really sweet, wholesome coming-of-age story, and that's not at all what happens when you get to the end. And this is where Cory Barker really won me over, because he is able to perfectly capture the wholesomeness and the sweetness and the innocence of having a crush and that possible romance and the flirtatiousness of the situation, and balance it with really good humor. And this movie is really funny, but then also add some really great, brutal, horrific, disturbing, and gory scenes that make you go, what the fuck? And yet the entire time you feel like you're watching the same movie. It never falls to one side or the other. And one thing that he does great is he showed so much good control and restraint. He never went too hard and he never went too slow. He knew exactly when to up the notch and when to keep it low, which is really rare for a first-time director doing a feature film. You know, they want to try and grab you immediately, and he didn't do that. He slowly and perfectly let the situation cook, almost like a pressure cooker, and it's just slowly build, and then boom, by the end it all exploded to an intense, crazy, and gory conclusion, which is very satisfying. I left the theater like, yes, that's what I wanted, not only in the entertainment level but in the story as well. And one last thing I want to praise Cory Barker on is that he really knows how to stage a sequence very well, how to block the action so you create a lot of tension and create a scary moment without having to rely on jump scares, which again, for a first-time director, he did that really well. I will say some of the scares are things you've seen before, but the way he does them here are so well done that it never feels like he's copying somebody else. It feels like it's something original. And of course, we have to talk about the acting, because both of these actors, both Michael Johnston and Indy Navarrete, were incredible in this film. People are going to say that Indy was a little bit better because she went crazy. She was insane, psychotic, and she is. She actually reminded me a little bit of Naomi Scott in Smile 2, maybe because they have a little bit of similarity in the way that they look, but she was great. There's no denying that she was psychotic and disturbing. But I was more impressed with Michael Johnston. I thought the way he brought Bear to life, and that painful shyness that he had and the awkwardness that he had was really subtle and really good acting. It's almost like he created a real character, and I could see it every single scene. It was great. I really am more impressed with him. They both have a bright future, and I think this film's gonna open a lot of doors for both of them. So I can't wait to see what they do next. Okay, so now let me go into my issues and things that I thought the movie could have done better. I'll give you my thoughts and commentary on the story and where it had some missed opportunities. So one of the reasons why I will not say this movie is a masterpiece is because this movie is missing a little bit of good commentary. For example, where Jordan Peele came out, he made the movie Get Out. That movie has a great universal commentary that is, you know, critically acclaimed, right? Critics will love that kind of commentary. This film, I wish it had a little bit of a commentary, and it kind of tries to have it, but it's so small and it's so ambiguous that you can't really tell it's there. And that concept and that commentary is the commentary of consent. So in this film, Bear makes a wish to make Nikki fall madly in love with him. And clearly, he is now making her do something against her will. He had no idea it was going to come true, but once it does and the movie starts happening, he does certain things that makes you question, why isn't he doing something to put a stop to this? He already knows this is not normal. And there's even a scene where you can hear the real Nikki saying, "Please save me, please kill me." And instead, he goes into his feelings and he says, "Why wasn't I enough?" And he leaves, which immediately makes him be the villain of the movie. And I did not want that to happen. I don't want this to be a women against men story. I was hoping it was going to be where he just made a mistake and then things spiral out of control. But once he had that reaction, in my mind, I was like, you're fucked, dude. You're done. You're going to get what you deserve. And that's the end of it. And I did not want that for this character, because honestly, from the beginning of the film, he was very sweet, he was very innocent, and all he wanted was for a girl to like him. He just didn't know how to go about it. And he made some questionable decisions, unfortunately. In the story, Bear is so insecure and shy and timid that he could barely tell her anything about his feelings. And I wish there would have been a backstory that would explain why he couldn't say those words to her. And I feel like the commentary really should be, how can we get men to be more vulnerable, and not about women and men making women do things against their will. That has been done so many times, but this one in particular could have been done a little bit better, and it could have gone a different way if they would have focused on why he was so unable to say those words to her. And I find that a missed opportunity. In the beginning of the film, it actually feels like Nikki also has a crush on Bear, which in my opinion, it would have been so much better if they would have had a story where he is so unable to say, "Hey, I like you," and she is also so unable to say, "Hey, I like you back," because in gender stereotypes and in gender roles, women are not supposed to say those things to men. They have to wait for the man to make the move. It would have made a better story if, because of that situation, he never says anything. Then he makes the wish, and it turns out that the entire time she liked him anyways. He did not have to wish for it. All he had to do was to get the cojones to tell her. An end of story. And we as an audience could have been pissed off at him, like, bro, if you would have man up, you could have gotten the girl of your dreams. Instead, the movie actually does have a moment where they explain that she did not have a crush on him and that she actually friend zoned him and she was sleeping with his best friend, which kind of sucks. And that doesn't make her the villain of the story at all. I'm not trying to say that, but I feel like they could have done something a little bit more genuine if they both would have had a crush on each other, but because of those societal fears and being rejected, they never said anything, and all of this happened for absolutely no reason because they could have lived happily ever after. I would have preferred that a whole lot more. So in the end, Obsession is a movie that I really enjoyed. It builds beautifully from start to finish to a gruesome, intense ending. It does lack a little bit in commentary that I thought could have been better, but in the end, it gave me a great new director that I'm rooting for and that I'm heavily invested in, and that is Curry Barker. I'm not sure if this movie is for everybody. I think a lot of people will relate to it with crazy ex-boyfriends and ex-girlfriends, and a lot of people might be triggered by it and might not enjoy it. So let's see what the response is. Let's see what the box office says at the end of the weekend. Thank you for watching my video. Make sure to share your thoughts and comments below. And remember that I keep it frank, so let's keep it frank together.